When was the last time you had an SMG drop on you and you were like, oh man, what is that? It's probably been a while, right? For many reasons. Number one, everyone's either got a shotgun or a fusion or a sniper rifle, something lethal that can kill you in one hit. And number two, ever since Recluse has come into the picture, there really has been no SMG that can even come close to its greatness. Maybe Terrible in terms of lethality, but in terms of ease of use, especially in something like PvP, Recluse is king amongst all SMGs. Today, guys, I want to talk about SMGs, where it sits in the current meta, and why Recluse single-handedly saved this weapon type from dying out. Now, when we talk about dead weapons, we brought up scout rifles like a month ago. We're going to talk about auto rifles, but today we're going to talk about submachine guns. Submachine guns were hands down like one of the most used weapon types in year one of Destiny 2. Anio, I know, was disgusting. Our personal favorite was actually stochastic variable with phase mag. A lot of people were using SMGs, especially in something like Trials. But with the introduction of one-hit kill weapons as special weapons, the question that pops up is why use an SMG when you can just use a shotgun? It essentially does the same thing. A little less distance, of course, but if you can close the gap, and with the arcadey maps that we currently have, this is no problem. Plus, anything outside of optimal range, 15, 20 meters, it'd just be better if you use a hand cannon or a pulse rifle. This is when things became awkward for submachine guns. But then, it's Season of the Drifter. Bungie has now revealed to us the pinnacle weapon, Recluse. Now, initially when we saw the reveal, there was a lot of people bummed out. They were like, oh my god, an SMG as the pinnacle weapon, it's gonna be garbage. Ah. But lo and behold, it turned out to be an absolutely disgusting weapon. For both PvP and for PvE, Recluse has been one of my main weapons inside of PvE when it comes to just massive ad clear. Now, this little old SMG became one of the most dominant weapons, and still is one of the most dominant weapons. It initially starts off just like every other SMG with 0.67 time to kill, hitting 19 per crit and 11 per body. But as soon as you proc the perk on this weapon called Master of Arms, that time to kill drops down to 0.47 seconds for both optimal and body shot TTK values, hitting 25 per crit and 25 per body. Yes, it's disgusting. Now, this Master of Arms perk really kind of broke whatever parameters that were set currently around other SMGs. 25 per crit, as well as 25 per body, was even higher than a weapon within the same archetype with something like Kill Clip. So it went above and beyond here in buffing the weapon's lethality. So much so that despite me receiving this beautiful Hero's Burden yesterday with Kill Clip, Ricochet rounds, or this Breath of the Dragon, which would have been considered one of the most consistent SMGs in the game, rolling with Ricochet rounds, Zen Moment, and Dynamic Sway Reduction. Boys, do you see what I'm trying to say here? I'm a SMG enthusiast. For God's sake, we have an exotic on the Titan class called Peacekeepers. And unfortunately, these SMGs, despite one being a lethal role and the other one being a super consistent role, still can't hold its own against something like Recluse. But see, guys, what I found myself losing against today, while using Hero's Burden, while using Breath of the Dragon, I wasn't dying to Recluse over and over again. I was dying to shotguns. I was dying to special weapons. I was dying inside of a crucible that is much more lethal than what SMGs was designed for initially. We have a number of weapons that can do what SMGs does, and they can do it way better. They're way more lethal up close, and there's many weapons that are way more consistent in the mid-range, putting SMGs in a very awkward position. And for those that think that Recluse needs a nerf, Recluse is good. I'll give you that. It is very good, but it is the only thing that is keeping submachine guns relevant. Outside of a few people out there that I would say are SMG enthusiasts, no one would use submachine guns at all if there wasn't one as deadly as Recluse is. Which takes us to the whole point of this entire video. The identity of Destiny. What is it? To me, it's when something drops in my inventory and I immediately get a release of dopamine. I race to my inventory to see what is inside of this weapon. Can it be nasty? If you find yourself looking at weapons that you don't even care what it rolls with, there's something wrong. Not only is there something wrong, but there's probably a very justifiable reason to why you don't even care what that weapon can even present to you. Despite both of these SMGs being very nicely rolled SMGs, I was not necessarily excited to see them drop, because I knew whatever they may roll with, it could be the most lethal god roll in the game. Recluse will still outpace it. Now, this is not not every SMG in the game. I've seen some very good roll antiopes out there that can still compete, especially with something like Kill Clip. Terraba, like we mentioned, definitely has a place for those that plays around the parameters that it sets. And then for something like PvE, Huckleberry, Wrist Runner, and even Terraba there are extremely nasty. But notice all of the weapons that I'm mentioning there has to present something extremely special in order for you to justify using it over something like Recluse. And unfortunately, this leaves many of our legendary SMGs in the dirt. Guys, overall, I believe that submachine guns need a buff. And I'm not even talking about its crit damage. Matter of fact, I think the time to kill values for most SMGs are pretty healthy. The lightweight archetypes range from 0.67 upwards to 0.8 seconds with something like Phase Mag. But where the weapons sit in terms of its body shot TTK values, they range from 0.93 seconds to 1.13 seconds, making it obvious that many of these weapons, in order for them to thrive, need to hit crits, which is why I think buffing the body shot damage across the board for our SMGs would actually breathe life into this weapon type. Now, I know I still got some guys from year one that still have like PTSD from Antiope. I've actually gotten comments that stated that they never want to see an SMG inside of Destiny ever again, which seems kind of harsh. I believe if you can juke a one-eye mass striker titan running at you with a retoad tail or a mind bender, you deserve to get the kill. You deserve to kill that person before he can get a second shot out. And unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, you won't kill him. And that's simply because the body shot damage values for most SMGs are very, very unforgiving. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. Oh, and by the way, Sunshot is getting a buff. Yeah, baby. Thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.